All right, let's dive into a new report that tackles a massive billion-dollar question. What is really holding back clean energy? And, the answer probably isn't what you think. Let's get into it.
Okay, so look, we've got the solar panels, we've got the wind turbines, the technology for a 100% renewable world. It exists. It's here right now. So, why aren't we building it? Well, the answer isn't an engineering problem. It's a massive, almost invisible financial barrier. The absolute key to unlocking all this is something called long-duration energy storage, or LDES for short. Just think of it like a giant battery for the entire power grid. So when the sun sets or the wind dies down, LDES kicks in. It can store all that clean energy for hours, days, even weeks, making sure the lights stay on 24/7.
And we really need to get moving on this because the need is urgent. To even have a shot at hitting our global climate goals, the LDES Council estimates we need to deploy, get this, 50 times more of this technology. That is a staggering number. And frankly, right now, we are nowhere near that pace.
So, what is holding back that tidal wave of investment we need for that 50x scale up? Well, it all boils down to one single, incredibly important word: bankability. This right here, this is the billion-dollar question we have to answer. So what exactly is bankability? It's not about proving a piece of tech works in a lab. Nope. It's all about convincing investors that a project out in the real world is going to make money. And not just make money, but make it reliably, predictably, and for a very long time. It's all about financial certainty.
And this quote from the report just hits the nail on the head. Investors don't finance technology. They finance predictable, long-term revenue. This is the mindset. You have to get inside their heads. A brilliant piece of tech is basically worthless to an investor if it doesn't have a bankable business model attached to it.
Okay, so for these projects to become bankable, they have to get a handle on the big risks that keep investors up at night. And the report breaks it down into 3 main hurdles. Let's walk through them.
Here they are, the 3 big worries for any investor looking at this space. First, you've got revenue risk. Is this thing actually going to make money consistently? Second, there's technology and operational risk. I mean, is this hardware going to last for decades or is it going to break down? And third, market and policy risk. What happens if the government just decides to change the rules of the game overnight?
Now, this is really interesting. This breaks down that revenue risk. If you're just selling your power on the open market, the merchant market, prices are all over the place. That's super high risk. But if you lock in a long-term contract, what's called a power purchase agreement, or PPA, suddenly you have a guaranteed revenue stream. That is low risk, and that is exactly what investors love to see. The next big hurdle is that a lot of these projects are first of a kind. They can't just pull up a spreadsheet with 20 years of performance data to prove they're reliable. And for an investor, no data means unpredictable risk. They're sitting there asking, is this thing really going to run for 30 years without some crazy expensive breakdown? And finally, you have all this stuff that's outside the project's control. Governments can change subsidy programs on a whim. And the energy markets themselves, which were designed for old-school power plants, often don't properly pay for the incredible grid stability that LDS provides. All that uncertainty can kill a deal before it even gets off the ground. Okay, so yeah, those are some pretty big challenges. But here's the good news. The report doesn't just leave us there. It actually gives us a playbook for how to get these projects financed and built. Let's take a look at the path forward. This lays out the whole financial journey perfectly. A new technology starts way over on the left, usually with public grants. Then, as it starts to prove itself, it attracts different kinds of money, from venture capital to specialized climate funds. The end goal, the holy grail, is to get all the way to the right side of this chart, where mature, proven technologies can tap into these huge and much cheaper pools of capital like project finance. So, who's actually writing the checks for LDES today? Well, this chart shows a really fascinating mix. It's not just your typical venture capitalists. You see that big slice for strategic investors? That's folks like utility companies. And government-backed funds are playing a huge role too. That's so important because they provide both patient capital and some really critical market validation. And we're also seeing another really important trend. LDS companies are starting to go public through IPOs and these things called SPACs, which are basically just a faster way to get listed on the stock market. This is a huge sign of maturity for the whole sector. It unlocks those massive pools of capital you need to actually achieve that 50x scale-up we talked about.
So here's the bottom line. Making LDS bankable isn't one person's job or one company's job. It needs a real coordinated effort from everyone involved. And the report wraps up with a very clear call to action for 3 key groups.
For policymakers, the message is loud and clear. Fix the markets. They have got to make sure LDES gets paid for the stability it brings to the grid. They can also create special financial tools, help drive demand from big energy users, and support building out a strong manufacturing supply chain right here at home.
Investors have homework to do too. They need to really dig in and understand that not all LDS technologies are the same, and by teaming up in consortiums, they can share the risk and bring different expertise to the table. Most importantly, they need to pony up the cash for those crucial first demonstration projects to generate the real-world data everyone's waiting for.
And finally, the LDES industry itself has to step up. By creating common standards, they make it way easier for investors to compare apples to apples. They need to get better at communicating clearly and, above all else, focus on one thing: getting those first crucial projects built and running. Because at the end of the day, there is just no substitute for proof. So that brings us right here to the final question. The technology is moving forward. And as this report shows, we now have a clear financial playbook to de-risk these projects and make them bankable. The path is laid out. So what's really stopping us from building the clean, reliable energy system of tomorrow? Today.